All right, so welcome to Launchpad Industry Insight. This is session four of a 5 week, uh, 6 week uh, course that we're doing. So I'm just going to let someone else in if that's all right. Um, and we've been over a few different things. So last week we were looking at managing your rights. Um, this week we're going to be looking at live opportunities, and just essentially how the lay of the land works in terms of live. I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight. My name's Ed Heaton. I am a music producer and um, sound designer, and I do lots of different things. Essentially, I have what's called a portfolio career. I've done a lot of live work as well. So over the past few years, I was a music director for a venue. I ran stages at festivals. I've done lots and lots of booking. I've managed artists. I've run gigs. I've promoted gigs. Yes. So it's something that I've been part of. This is kind of some of the things I do at the moment. So I'm a producer, a mix engineer, I'm an artist and songwriter. So I release stuff. I'm a sound designer and composer, so I do a lot of theatre work. I do some post-production editing work for podcasts and for adverts. I run a music publishing company called Foreign North Publishing. So we look after the rights of about 500 different songs for songwriters. I'm also a mentor, so I do a lot of work like this where I oversee people, and I'm also a senior lecturer at Beckett, and I work about a day a week. Um, Excellent. Uh, so let's get started. All right. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm just gonna make the obvious thing. I love music. It's sort of the thing that I've basically has kept me going over the years. It's my absolute passion. And that should be kind of obvious, but years and years ago when I did it, my first ever like guest lecture, someone once said I was a bit corporate. And that really, I was talking about setting up a recording studio, which, is in essence, you're talking about bank loans. So it's fairly corporate. But I've learned how the mechanisms of the music industry work, so I can work within it. And it's allowed me at the age of 49 to still be making music for a living. I've spent the day, literally spent the day making music today. It's been lovely, and I'll be doing the same tomorrow. I've got a singer-songwriter coming into my studio, and I get to do it again. And that's because I've learned how the mechanisms work. So if it ever sounds like I'm being quite business-like, please know that behind it is an absolute love of music. So I just wanted to make that really clear. As I've said, if you've got any questions, please stick it in the chat and let's get going. All right, so tonight we'll be going to be covering arts overview, um, local national industry overview, approaching venues and promoters, organizing and being prepared. So when you're doing a gig, organize and be prepared. Fees, like what can you expect? Advancing shows, so kind of what you do before a show starts. Promoting your shows, kind of some good practice. Making the most of shows. Supporting a touring artist. Looking at festivals, which everyone's always very keen on. Booking agents, when to play, when not to play. And yeah, so kind of and some other bits and pieces as well. Um, as I say, this is about you guys, and this is hopefully going to be interesting for you. So if you do have questions, please do ask them. There are no stupid questions, and hopefully I won't give you stupid answers. All right. So when you're wanting to start playing live, uh, can you guys see this PowerPoint, by the way? Sorry, someone's saying that you can't see it.
No, we can't. Sorry, Ed.
Oh, that's all right. Thanks for letting me know. That's really useful. Thank you. Oh, there's someone waiting to be admitted as well. There you go. Uh, See, I told you this is what happens when they let a man of a certain age start. Um, cool. Mm, mm. Uh, um, Someone's asking. We are going to be recording this meeting, by the way, L. So I'm just going to decline that, but we will be recording this and putting it online if that's all right. Um, okay, let's try this again. Desktop. No, that's the wrong desktop. So that's wonderful. This is really insightful right now, and I hope you're all absolutely thoroughly loving it. Can you see my keynote now?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we can see the whole. You might want to do a full screen thing on it.
Can you not see? So
That,
what you see?
yeah, that's. I think that's working now. We can just see Launchpad in the bottom right. So,
Perfect. That's exactly what I want you to see. That's great. Good. Thank you very much for the feedback. It's still, I mean, it's we all get a little bit of PTSD when we do Zoom, right? Um, I know I do. Okay, here we go. Thank you very much for letting me know. I really appreciate it. So when when you're starting to book a gig, it's really worth and starting thinking about playing live. It's worth getting strategic. So thinking about kind of a whole different set of elements for when you're wanting to play live, rather than just go, I want to play live, want to play anywhere, whatever. I don't care. That kind of approach is fine if you're not really that interested in kind of building a thing, and so this is what we mean by get strategic. So before you start playing live or booking your next session or your next set of gigs, it's worth considering why are you playing these gigs. What kind of gigs should they be? So it's worth thinking about like why am I doing this and who's it for and where do I want to be playing, rather than just going, I just want to play anywhere to anyone, because ultimately that might be fun for the first sort of two, three times, but after a while, if you're playing to the wrong audiences in the wrong kind of venue, um, and that's going to start, it's going to be start being diminishing returns. It's going to get difficult for you, and also that's going to be difficult for the promoters as well. Um, so it's you're gonna start playing to playing to friends and playing playing in front of people you like, and getting people down is really important, showing you can bring a small amount of audience. So and if that's what you want to do and that's kind of the aim, then great, play to friends, brilliant. Do you want to make new fans? Do you want to, is that one of the things you're wanting to do? Are you wanting to start building an audience? um are you launching a release or creating added promo? So is this are you doing this not just as a live gig, but are you doing it in conjunction with releasing a new single or a new album? And are you wanting to create some additional, the horrible word, content out of it, additional promo? Is it creating, and is this a way to also build promo for your release? Is it additional promo for what you're putting out? Is it to make money? And again, we need to be really clear about it. It's okay if you want to make money out of gigs. That, it, I think again, we need to stop being apologetic as creatives. Um, good. Someone just put yes in the chat. Yes, I do. Good. Great. You should. And I think when people kind of put that as one of the kind of like non-negotiables, then it starts being a collection of people who are willing to pay, who aren't willing to pay for free if it's certainly if it's a money making gig for other people. Uh, is it so you can introduce yourself to promoters and venues? Is that one of the reasons why you're doing it? So these are kind of like why some of the reasons why you might be doing it. Is it to reach new areas, new cities? So you've played quite a lot in maybe in Leeds or whatever town you're in, and you want to go out to other places and reach a new audience. So these are some of the reasons you might want to be playing. There might be others, but think about what is the reasoning behind it. It's really clear key you have that, because I think then you can have a wider understanding of what you're trying to achieve. So understanding the reason you play live will inform how often you play. So, quite literally, how often you're going to play, who you play with. So kind of what kind of artists are you supporting? What kind of artists are you getting to support you? Where you play. So, what kind of venues are you playing in? Are you playing at pub gigs? Are you playing open mic nights? Are you playing, very strategic, odd venues that no one usually plays? Who knows? But these things will hopefully inform why you're doing these things. Um, uh, which promoters you need to work with and what venues you need to be in, like which ones will be most beneficial to you. um and it will help you how you promote your show. So if it's you're supporting someone, you've kind of got a bit more low key about it. If it's a headline gig or it's an album launch, you're going to have to kind of highlight those different things. If it's a kind of big party or it's a celebration or it's something that's maybe not quite just a gig, then you know there's a reasoning to kind of to give it a certain slant. So these things will inform all. So it's about So understanding why you want to play is understanding how you will do these things. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, lovely. Okay, so for example, if you want to make money from e.g. to pay for releases or fund an out of town gig, can you promote your own show and encourage friends and family to come? So promote, a lot of people kind of first thing do is kind of go to promoters. But if you've got a small audience or and you can find the right venue and you can fill it with 40, 40 people, 40, 50 people, and those each one of those people is happy to pay a tenner. That's, and what you're just having to pay for the engineer. So someone like, I don't know, in Leeds, someone like the Cardigan Arms, for example, um, or a slightly bigger venue like the Attic, but if or a Porto, like those smaller venues that can feel really intimate and great, they're brilliant. And actually, if you can charge a tenner and fill it up, then and play to kind of essentially a known audience, but have a few people who maybe not aren't. But the whole point is you're raising funds. Then actually, is it worthwhile promoting that show yourself rather than handing over a percentage of the money to a promoter? And it's definitely worth thinking about. It was certainly something I did when I was managing a band. They had a really big following, and we decided we didn't want to work with a promoter for the new single launch because we essentially wanted to raise some money, and we'd spent quite a bit on kind of a video and stuff like that. So we ended up hiring a working men's club in Morley because they were from Morley, and we brought in a PA and a lighting rig, and but it was a 250 cap venue, and we charged a tenner on the door. So the band did really well that night. It was a really big night, and they sold it out because they're from Morley. They had a big following. So and obviously that's a bigger example of what you can do. But if you're doing that with to 30, 40 people, that could be 300, 400 quid, and even take 100 out for expenses. That is definitely something that's worth thinking about. Um, people are, sorry everyone, someone's just arrived in the chat. Just going to admit someone. It's why is it not easy to admit someone in this when you're in full screen? Okay. Mhm. Okay. Can everyone see that the thing again? Excellent, cool. Hi, Andrew. If you're looking to play a certain festival in 6 to 9 months' time, can you play a gig for those promoters soon? If so, so it's a good way to kind of go, well, if we're going to do a festival, can we show up the promoters what we can do so they understand who we are, so they're going to give us the right lineup, they're going to put us in the right place. you know it, so it's about, again, building relationships. If you wanted to expand your fan base, can you team up with other artists to cross promote with your fans? So if you've got an artist who you think you're akin to, you maybe have a similar sound, or you have a similar audience, like an age group, or just a type that are really into this kind of a genre. Can you play a gig with that audience that you think will feed off, so you'll both benefit from sharing an audience? Or what are the key promoters to work with? So who are the promoters you should be working with for the genre of music that you're doing, and or the venues you want to play in? So when getting ready to play, think stroke consider. I've put think consider. I'm dyslexic, by the way, so that there's going to be some spelling mistakes, just to warn you all, and some terrible typos like that. Who are your audience? Who are the people you want to play to? Like, who do you think are the people that are going to be into your music? Um, what venues does that audience go to? So, for example, if you're like a full kind of thrash metal band, like, is the Brood the right place space for you, or maybe you're more of a boom, kind of band, right? Um, where do your audience congregate? Where do you, if you're into that music, where do you go to those gigs? So hopefully you'll know that because you're already a fan of the music. who promotes those the kind of gigs you want to play. So who are putting on those gigs? So if you are wanting to work with a promoter, who is the company behind it? So if it's like, I don't know, if you're like a pop punk band or like just a kind of like um that kind of like harder sound, then you might be wanting to go with Slam Dunk. If you're more like an indie band or like a guitar band, you might want to be looking at Future Sound. If you're kind of more kind of synth, sort of that vicey type band, you might be wanting to look at Super Friends. And then if you're like that kind of slightly math rocky sort of band, then you might want to look at Brunel. And these are just really wide examples, by the way. And I know there's loads more kind of types of music. I'm being really, really, broad there. So excuse that. But I just want to give you some examples of what I was meaning. Are there other towns, cities you can target to build your audience? Is there kind of like a movement? Do you know about other bands who are doing well in their city? Are there, is there like a localized scenes that really enjoy the kind of music you're doing that that will go down well? And therefore, who are the promoters in that city? Who are the bands in that city? Uh, so what connections with bands promoters do you have across the UK? So it's about kind of so ultimately it's kind of like doing an audit a little bit. It's like going, right, what am I who I think it's one of those things that when you ask a band, it's one of my pet peeves actually. When you ask an artist what kind of music do you do? And they go, oh well, it's very hard to pin us down. We're kind of like, we've got a very wide palette. And then you hear the music and you go, oh, see synth pop then. And it's like it's okay that you sound like other people. It's fine that like do know what sound you're going for, because if you're talking to promoters, you're talking to other bands, and you do that whole like, well, I can't really tell you. That's no good for them. They don't know what to do with you. If you don't know how to describe yourself, it's damn sure that they won't be able to, and they're not willing to put that work in because that's your job. So it's really worth knowing yourself and knowing your own like who you are, what is your identity, what is your aesthetic, who are you appealing to. So and that will then give you a much better idea about uh what you're wanting to do live. And if you are playing live and you're like, okay, we're picking up a bit of traction, what's working, what isn't working, who are the audience, who are the people who are really getting stuff and who the people aren't, like um yeah. Any questions so far, by the way? No. Good. Excellent. So local national overview. So some venues have in-house bookers. Local venues in particular. So Leeds has a lot of bookers who work within venues. So they're in fact their own promoting companies. So for example, Super Friends have Belgrave and Hedgerow House. Obviously, there's Nath at the Broodnell and his team as well. There's and then there's uh, Slam Dunk mainly do kind of I was going to call it the basement because I'm really showing my age. Key Club, and then obviously Future Sounds at the Wardrobe, just to name a few. So we and also High Park Book Club, Jack and his team at High Park Book Club, and Iger. So some venues have promoters who work across multiple venues and run festivals. And actually, a lot of these people I've just mentioned do actually also help run festivals and do things outside their own venues. So they will have they'll have venue specific gigs that they'll do, but they'll also be running events outside their own venues. And and everything from like just small kind of multi-venue things to large scale, or even things like the O2 Academy and large gigs if they have the relationship with those bookers. So larger promoters can be working on national tours. So large bookers like Live Nation and SJM they'll be working on kind of on big national tours. Live Nation are the biggest promoters in the world, and they also own Ticketmaster and numerous venues across the world. So they have a hand in a lot of stuff, but that doesn't mean they aren't also doing smaller scale gigs as well. They're working at kind of quite a lot of levels, but a lot of time these will be national tours run by. They won't be doing kind of one off like just a local uh gig, they will be part of a wider national tour. So, for example, in Leeds, as I've just mentioned, Super Friends, Hedra House, Fute Sound, Book Wardrobe and Key Club, but frequently Hyde Park Book Club and Oporto. Hyde Park Book Club and Oporto have in-house bookers, and national promoters such as Live Nation, DHP, SJM will also have shows for at the Wardrobe, Broodnell, the universities, O2 Academy, etc. So you can see there's a lot of cross-pollination. It's not just like these gigs only play here, and you will see certain promoters who tend to be attached to one venue, but actually booking in other venues as well, because they'll have relationships with booking agents and artists as well. So they'll want to kind of play in certain cities with certain promoters. Um, I hope that makes sense to everyone. Um, and those things, they are quite they can get quite political and they can get quite tribal. So a if you play with a promoter in a city, and then you're playing, come back to Leeds and play another gig, they might try and get they might want to promote the gig themselves. Um, so which can be tricky if you're in a city like Leeds, because that Leeds already had its own promoters and they might not be that comfortable with like you bringing in an outside promoter. Does that make sense? um that can happen, and I've seen it happen. So I've seen, Scruff of the Neck, who are Manchester based, there I've seen them promote gigs at Hedra House, and they'll do that, but that means that maybe some opportunities don't come your way from local promoters. So there is sometimes politics involved, and I think that's really fair to say. And that isn't through maliciousness; it's just about um, relationships and artists and promoters wanting to build relationships and make sure that they're not just doing kind of just being service, but actually they're helping each other's journeys. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to turn this off again. Someone's arrived. Minutes. Um, okay, that was quicker. Um, so some promoters are not venue based at all, but put on shows across Yorkshire, like Deershed, Youth Gigs, Long Division. There's also a lot of DIY promoters. They might, so like smaller promoters who actually, they are literally just promoters, will be putting on gigs like across the city or across different venues. Less of those guys about than there used to be. I think it's fair to say, but I think, but there are still promoters about who are doing kind of, and particularly you'll find them when they're in the more genre-based promoters as well. So promoters who are kind of really into a certain sound, they'll be really pushing those. You see a lot with like, I think like gigs at Boom, actually, a lot of those are kind of like kind of independent promoters or even bands as well. So it is. It's I don't think it's more difficult to get gig. I think it's more concentrated now, and I think yeah, it's less sort of, and I suppose in a lot of ways it's less Wild Westy as well. There aren't kind of those promoters about who like would just kind of like there used to be quite a lot of promoters around who weren't necessarily that great, or were just you know they were very much had a glass ceiling, so it was like you could only go so far with them. um and it feels like kind of the promoters who are in the business now have a really good understanding of kind of like pathways, which is really important. And I think that's one of the things I think we don't talk about a lot, is like are you building a relationship with promoter as well, and is that what you're actually attempting to do? Because if you are, then like it is worth it, like thinking about, like if you play a few shows with them, talking to them about like what do you think we should be doing, like how can we increase our stock with you, how can what is our pathway going forward, rather than just be like gig fine, gig fine. Like maybe trying to sit down with them, if you get to know one of the reps or get to know one of the bookers for a promoter, like speak to them and go, right, you're booking me quite a bit, what do you think, what is my path, what do I need to be doing to get further up the chain, to get maybe to get booked at Live at Leeds, maybe to get either as the November multi-venue one, and then the one at Bramham, you know, like what can I be doing to do that? You know, if it's Future Sound, for example. So it's definitely worth, you know, speaking to, you know, trying to build those relationships rather than just seeing as transactional, because they're ultimately it's people who are working behind the scenes, right? Other cities have, sorry, I went off on one a little bit there, but you know, I think that's kind of like certainly, I certainly when I was promoting and putting on gigs, it was always the bands that I just like, you know, if you were treated like you were just a kind of like service and you know, a bit like, pff, it was always a bit like, oh, thanks, gang. Where people like when you built a relationship with artists and you know, you like that was always really nice because you know, you always felt it was mutually beneficial and you know, you were sort of both in it together, you know, and that was always really lovely. And I think everyone got more out of it. So the cities have major promoters like DHP in Nottingham, uh, SCM, and now Wave in Manchester, also Scuff the Neck, who I just mentioned as well. Uh, y- um, you find key promoters or big DIY in these cities. So most cities have like a set of promoters, like Leeds does. Most cities will have the same kind of setup. Like there will be kind of the bigger promoters and the ones, or and even ones that are kind of maybe have venues that work in certain genres or like have a wide range of genres. But it's definitely worth finding out what is happening in each city. Um, and that's easy to do nowadays as well. You know, getting on Google, getting doing a little bit of research. You know, looking at bands who you like as well. Like you know, it's all ultimately all comes back down to music. Which are the bands you like? Where are they from? Who's promoting them? And it's a little bit of work. Is but as is you know music is it's all work, right? It's part of what we do to kind of survive. Get to know your area and the area you are hoping to book gigs in. More on booking agents later. So yeah, it's so you know, get to. I suppose what I mean by that, I sort of want to expand on that a little bit. It's like you can say, "Oh, I know a promoter, that's fine," but again, it's that knowing a scene, like being part of. Actually, it's been part of something. I think that's what I mean. Is actually really being part of something is really important. All the best all the best scenes are made up of artists who are supporting one another as well, you know. And I've really, I've been, working leads my entire career, and and I've been really lucky enough to see kind of quite a wave of different, different waves of popularity of bands and all that kind of stuff, and that's been brilliant. And and the best ones have always been like ones that felt like they're a big part of a big part of something happening. Like it's like felt like a bit of a movement, and that can be done by just being more collaborative and getting to know the city, getting to know how it ticks, and sometimes that is much more than just, oh, those gigs are playing there, oh, they're the bands who are playing there, but actually understanding the city, understanding its like DNA. Like if you're not from Leeds, like what is Leeds about? Like what is Leeds as a city? What does it mean to play in Leeds? You know, and I know that sounds quite ephemeral, but like Leeds is a city that has an identity, and and that's not just about a musical identity, but just an identity as a city, like, and I feel really like I feel like it's really important. So it's one of those things that like, um, it's one of those things that kind of sounds like quite a glib thing to say, like get to know your area and get to know your city, but it is. It's like it's dead important. Like, particularly if you're not from Leeds as well, it's like we have so many students that come in, and it's like we're Leeds is a playground for them. That's great, and it's brilliant, and it really welcome, and it's great for the city. But it's also like it's a two-way thing. It's about contributing, and like you aren't just playing a gig, you're contributing to the art of a city, you're contributing to the lifeblood of a city, and like music is the lifeblood of a city, like the creative. I work in the creative industries, and this is the stuff that makes living in a city worthwhile, right? The bars, the music, the food, the theater, like that's the shit that makes like being part of Leeds or Manchester or wherever it is in particular. And this is why I love my city. I mean, I'm absolutely, like I am, I genuinely like I genuinely say unironically Leeds is a great city in the world. I absolutely adore it as a city. And I know that people from Manchester or Nottingham or London feel that similar thing, and I think so getting to know a city is really, really important. Like, so yeah, sorry, I went off on there a little bit, but I kind of, yeah, it is something that like it matters to me. And I think I can just kind of go and say things, like here's some best practices. But I do think it's about understanding what our role is as creatives. It's more than just playing gigs. It's contributing to a cultural identity, and if you're part of that, your your cultural worth goes up. Does that make sense? Like if you understand that you're giving a lot, then hopefully that will give back. Um, Phew, there was a little. I should have been stood on a stage then with like waving a gavel. Voters. So do your research. Who do you need to be talking to? Like, so is there a promoter who really likes this type of music? In fact, is there an agent within that promoting team who really likes this type of music? Um, so who do you need to be talking to? Who are the people that you need to be spending time like talking to? Can you get to a similar show and talk to the venue promoter or bar staff or door staff? So, don't just kind of like go, I want a gig like this. I play, indie pop. Great, good. Do you go to any indie pop gigs? No. Okay. And again, it's about the contribution thing and it's about the kind of giving and taking. So like get to some gigs, find, like talk to the reps because the reps on the door, they're the people who are like doing the hard yards. And those reps who start like you might think, they're just taking the money and everything. So no. The reps are the people who will, I guarantee will be running that company in 5 years. Like I've seen some reps like I remember when Sally from Future Sound was like she started as a rep and now like Sally runs Dance to the Radio, and she started, like literally, and at the bottom worked her way up, and now she's like, she's Sally Bryant from, from Future Sound, and that's just because she's brilliant, and like, and and I met Sally and I was like, she's brilliant, she's gonna do loads, like, and like, and it's not that I'm some kind of Nostradamus. It was obvious to everybody who met Sally. But like, get to know those people because they're the key. And if you like, speak to them, talk to them, get information from them. Who booked this gig? Oh, it was so so. Actually, it was me. All right, great, cool. Well, we're do some thing. Can we talk to you? Yeah, no problem at all. Send some stuff. Are you pitching at the right level? Like, I know everyone wants to, play, and the next one is bigger, better. That's the big thing here. Is bigger better? Like, I I've promoted over the years, as I said, and I've worked with bands over the years, and there is definitely an obsession with bands about playing bigger gigs. Like it's always like, well, we've played 100 cap gig. Now I want to play 250 cap gig. Now from 250 cap, we want to play 400 cap gig. Now we want to play 700 cap. Now we want to play 1,500 cap. It's like it's all like cap, cap, cap. It's all like, and it's like, is bigger better? Like, I like yes, you can go and book, say, oh God, it's totally gone from my mind. You could go book the wardrobe. The wardrobe's 450 cap. Like that's a big gig, right? And if you don't fill it, how's that going to feel? And do you want to put that pressure on yourself? Like, is that something you really want to do? Like, just make it all about having to shift as many tickets as possible? Or could you play 100 cap gig, absolutely sell it out, no problem at all, pack it full, and make it amazing, right? You know what I mean? And like give everyone an incredible night because actually those nights when you're on it, just from a fan point of view, like the best nights are always like the tight, sweaty nights when you're like crammed in, right? And like everyone's just like going mental and there's no room and like there's just fluids everywhere because everyone's just sweating. Uh, um, sorry, not a very nice image. So is bigger better? Like, is trying to pitch yourself to like SJM as or trying to get in with like trying to get a slot supporting an artist at the Peace Hall? Is that where you are right now? Do you need that right now? Do you want that pressure right now of selling 450 tickets um to a gig when actually you could comfortably sell 50? Like, and at the Cardigan Arms, and yes, it might not feel as impressive as big, but it might much be easier on yourself. You might learn more about yourself. Working in an intimate crowd is as hard as working a big crowd. Like, and there's a lot of skill to be learned to working with a small audience. So yeah, so it's always about, again, it's always about thinking, and going back to the strategic thing. can you team up with other artists, especially if you're another town city? So we've talked about this, but like, can you reach out? Can you do cross promoting? You come support us, we'll come support you. Can you take an audience with you? Is there like, can you take 10, 15 people from Leeds? Is that possible? If but don't worry if not, but can you do some cross pollination amongst cities, because that might really help that, and it's harder than you think to do. Like, people get very territorial, bands get very territorial, everyone starts playing cards close to their chest, and it's like, okay, um I usually find that when people are more collaborative, more things happen. That's just the kind of like, when everyone starts playing like, oh yeah, well, I want to go and play at your city, but I don't know if I want you to come play at mine, because like, and everyone's all cagey and like, but it doesn't work. It gets it gets old quick. Um, so especially if you're looking to make money from a show, can you book your own gig? And we've already said this, but I think that's really, really key. Really, like, if you're starting out, and we're talking, and it's one of those things I've heard said quite a lot, and I've sometimes heard it used in a quite a fobby off way, and it is one of those things like, start your own scene, man. Like, start your own scene. It's like, it's not that easy, but you know there have been scenes in Leeds which have essentially been kind of DIY scenes, like quite a lot of them, like, you know, talk about Answer the Radio, and that's, that which Whiskas started, years and years ago. That was just promoting some, gigs up in the top room of a pub, and getting like-minded bands to play, and that's how everything starts. It starts with a want to do something of your own, right? Um, and it's a really great way to build loyalty, and a really great way to sort of gauge where you're at by putting your own gig on. And it's a quick way to make some money as well if you are good at it. Like, so if you know that you can sell 50 tickets, and that might be a little stretch, but if you know you can do it, or you could do pay what you feel, and but people are going to actually pay some money, like that, that might be a way of just establishing yourself as a live artist. Also, it gives you some, I'm going to use this word, provenance. Thank you very much, everyone. That's a $10 word for a $1 meaning. Um, uh, some provenance to promoters when they say, "Oh, what have you played? Where have you played? What have you done?" You can say, "Well, actually, I played this, sold this many tickets. I've promoted my own gigs." It's like, shows that you've got a sense of like, um sense of forward momentum. Yeah, and I don't know. I'm really into the idea of people booking their own gigs. I think it's really great. I think if you've got a certain size of audience, and you're just wanting to make it about you, like, it's a really ace thing to do. The only issue is that obviously, if you have got a bigger audience or a growing audience and you don't use a promoter, they're gonna feel shut out, and that's not always a good thing. But if you're starting out, if you're starting out playing, like, booking your own gig, because you can get, like, a certain amount in, then that can be really useful. um many small venues are available to pay, when you pay the sound guy, so you literally just have to pay, an engineer rate. And there's some really great, like Hyde Park Book Club's great. There's the Snug, and then there's downstairs, which is slightly bigger, and they're brilliant. That's a lovely venue, and like the sound guys are great in there, and you can get a decent amount of people in those venues and fill them up and make you feel great. I've been to some really, downstairs. Like, I did a foot. In fact, I did. I don't know if you guys know Venus Girls. I sort of helped out with their first headliner gig, and like, down there, and it was absolute. It was just, and it was brilliant. It was an amazing gig. It was great. They were on a wave. They were on a vibe. You know, um, we self-promoted that one. And I say they self-promoted it. And 150 tickets, and it was brilliant. And like, and they made some good money that night as well. They sold loads of merch, and it was a really great evening. Um, Can you be more personal with an audience and allow an audience to curate the lineup with other artists or help introduce new fans to your music? So it's about like, can it be a conversation with an audience rather than just we're doing this thing like that's come to our gig, that's it, like that transactional thing. Is there any way you can make it more of a thing? And I've got a little bit more on that later as well, but um yeah, it's just about thinking about, can we make it more than just like buy a ticket, come and see me? Like, how added value? I think that's my thing, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit because it's something that's been sort of in my brain for a while. Um, so pre-gig organization, dead important. Like being, like, and it's this is the kind of stuff that sounds really boring and it's already good, but actually nowadays it's never been so easy to be organized. Like, and as someone who is spent my life, someone who always thought I wasn't very organized, actually I'm quite organized just in a particular way. Modern technology allows me to be much organized, more organized than I ever have been, because it allows me to be, it is my idiosyncratic. So being organized and having that level of organization prior to week will make things go smoother. So be clear uh, about what you are approaching a promoter for. So like, why are you promoting? Like, you know, I'd like to play a headline gig, or I would like to play a support gig. I don't mind being fourth support or third support. Um, I just want to start playing. I want to start playing locally. I want to start playing with these kind of bands. What are you asking for? Because the words anything, I don't mind, it's just that those answers are akin to what kind of music are you? It's really hard to say. It's like, if you don't know, they don't know. So be very clear with what you're asking. Is it any show? Like, really? Is it any show? Because if you're a folk artist, do you want to be supporting a thrash metal band? No. Um, and I have been at nights when they've been badly curated, like, they've just stuck some bands together, or there's been one band that are in a lineup which absolutely stick out like a sore thumb, who it's like, why are you here? I was one night in particular where a band who were brilliant, two brilliant bands who were predominantly female bands played, and the other band was a ska band full of boys, and it was just like, what? And the promoter had chosen them, and it was just like, so, and it was clear that the had, and then you have to start thinking, well, where's the clarity, and who does that lie with? You know, did that lie with us as management? Because an argument, it is, that's actually our fault. We should have been more clear, like with the promoters, about what we wanted, or was it the promoters just been a bit lazy and just kind of go, oh, that'll do. We just want to fill the lineup up. Or we promised a show to a band in this city, so we've just given them one. So, is there a specific support slot you want? Is there a band coming to town that you're like, listen, I really think I know their music. I think I complement it. I can bring an audience who also love this music. I can make it a thing. Is a headline within specific dates? So, like, are you releasing a single, and therefore, when does this need to happen? Like, when, what, like it, because if you're releasing a single in February, you don't want the gig to be in May. That doesn't really make any sense. Um, Are you ready anytime? Because again, it's like, oh, I can play anytime, it's fine. Is that really true? Like, are you working? So, do you need, can you really play midweek gigs? Is that really viable? Um, are you a carer of someone, or children or another adults? Are there specific needs that you need? So if so, be clear. Don't be afraid to say what, I can't. These are the nights I find difficult for these reasons. People understand. People are, like, if you're speaking to a human being, they get things because they're human beings too, with the same limitations, right? And again, this is all, I think we always sort of think these sort of like in quite abstract forms. We always have to remember that usually you're speaking, well, not usually, you're always speaking to a person. And if you treat a person like a person and they treat you like a person, everyone gets on great. It's when it becomes, like I say, becomes more transactional and everything's just like, yeah, whatever, then that's when things fall down. So are you ready anytime? Be clear about that. Make sure that all the band members are on the same page when talking to promoters, booking gigs, especially if you want to take advantage of last minute support requests. So, uh, I don't know if you're a part of a band or what, there's more than one of you. It's great if there's one of you because you just check with yourself. Am I ready? Yes, go. Although, have a working diary, really important. Like, have a diary. Make sure you're not just trying to remember stuff in your head. I, as someone again, as someone who's dyslexic, that is a disaster waiting to happen. Um, make so make sure that all band members are on. Are they willing to play gigs on? You might be willing to play gigs on any night of the week, but they might have commitments. That don't enable them to do that. So make sure that you all know each other's kind of like red lines. Um, and use technology, so have a shared calendar, like, so you don't have to like just be ringing around everyone. You can, at a look and a glance, you can see whether or not that person's available. Making sure, but that is also making sure that bands are, the rest of the members are on that, making sure that they're filling in when they're busy, when they aren't available. So it kind of means living in each other's pockets a little bit, and not being very, like, you can't be very secretive about what you're doing. You've got to be kind of really like, I can't do that because I'm doing that. You know, it's my mum's, birthday. It's my dog's anniversary. Um, Listen, we all love our pets, man. Um, so use a shared diary calendar. Have relevant documents prepared. So make sure you've got kind of the documents you need. So an EPK electronic press kit. So it has a bio, promo photos, links to music, stuff that you can just send people to. Like, um, people hate downloading. Like, people hate having to go to multiple places. They just do. Like, you know, the reason why we all use Spotify isn't because we all think Spotify is great. No, I'm sure a lot of you all kind of like secretly hate yourself for it. But the reason why we use it is because it's convenient. Convenience beats everything. Like it just does. Like, I say this to my students a lot. Convenience trumps everything. That's why everyone uses Amazon. That's why we use Uber. This is why we're all bad people. It's because they're convenient and they work. And it's the same. But it's the same with like helping people, taking any barrier out of people checking you out. So, uh, have an EPK, like, have a biography. Don't just be like two lines. We're an indie band from Leeds and we're ace. Oh, great. Like, good. That tells me nothing. So, like, make sure that you've got yourself a really, a really good write up. If you're not very good at it, get someone else to do it. Like, if sometimes it's easy to get other people to write your stuff. Um, if you don't know where to start, then use ChatGPT or something like that. If that's going to help you write your stuff, and I know like people are probably going, oh, you can't say that. It's like, but if you genuinely struggle with writing about yourself, feed some information in, and even if you edit it and change it, great. But if that's whatever you need to do to get yourself off the ground, use those tools to you. Um, photos, have some photos or artwork ready. Like, and again, think about those, think about what they're saying, think about the aesthetic. you know don't just line yourself up against a brick wall and like put your thumbs in your jeans, unless that's the kind of band you are. Then great. But like, think about it. Like, this is how you're presenting yourself to people you're hoping are going to invest in you, are going to give you shots. So make it the best you can be. And links to music, people want to hear what you like. So have some music ready, and even that's some rough demos or whatever it is. Make sure you're linking to a SoundCloud or Disco or whatever you're using, to kind of like point people in your direction. But have that stuff ready to go. So you and it all on one document. So it's all just on a PDF, so people can just look at it, click through, check it out, and they have to do very little. Like, give people very small excuse to do anything. Yeah. Um, so an EPK, get yourself one of those together. And if you're not sure what they are, you can look them up. There's plenty of them. Uh, so tech spec advanced docs. So like, make sure you have like a Google Drive with your tech spec. So like, again, just take it out. So it means that like, oh, we have two amps, a drum kit, bass amp, two vocal mics. Like, and where are they on stage? have that tech spec ready. That's going to make the engineer's life a lot easier. It also means, again, it shows to promote you're serious, and even you're a solo artist. It's like, I've got a guitar with a DI, is it your DI? Are you providing DI? Are you bringing your own microphone? Like, a lot of singers nowadays bring their own microphones, especially post COVID. Like, so are you bringing your own, like, just being really like clear about what you're providing, what you might need, and how you like it set up. Again, it shows promoter that you take your job seriously, and it also makes the life easy for the engineer. And the engineer is like, getting on with the engineer is like, honestly, the dream. Like, that's what you want. You want the engineer to love you, because they'll say they were great, you're so easy to work with, they're brilliant. If like, if you're a dickhead, then they'll go, they're a dickhead. um and word travels fast, and I'll sort of say that later. If you're organized, you're easier to book. And it also means, if you're organized, if that last minute, like, support slot comes in, they're like, well, we'll book them because they're really easy, and we know that we know what they want. They'll give us everything. We can get them in easy. Great. And you might end up playing a really nice gig because you're all set up. Um, so fees. So yeah, so just to kind of go back on that, yeah, make sure you've got tech specs, make sure you've got that kind of stuff ready, and have them in a Google Drive or something like that. An easy to access thing that you can point someone to and go, "That's everything. That's everything you need to know for us." And you take all the worry out of that. Or you can at least get hold of it, you know where it is, you're not looking in 1,000 folders, you can download it, or you can send them a link, or whatever it is. But make it easy for yourself and for the promoter. So fees, a standard industry support fee is about £50 still. So it's, like, margins are tight, it's not great. So again, it's, deciding, is that worth that support worth it? Like, like, is it worth it, A, because you're trying to get in with a promoter? Is it worth it because you really love the band, you really like their audience? Or are you just playing it because it's a gig to play? And actually, you can't really be asked, but it's what you do in it. So, like, it's worth, like, is this gig of value to you? Is that £50 going to be useful? Because 50 quid still 50 quid, like, and you might go, oh, well, between four of us, that's not very much. But then really, 50 quid you should be chucking back in the pot and going, okay, and that's going to cover travel, that's going to cover per diems, it's going to cover rehearsal rooms, whatever that might be. And anything that's going to self-fund is really important. And it's one of the things that I think in the music industry, what we've got as habit of doing at the moment is looking at everything at point of sale. So 50 quid, not a lot of money. 0.003p, not a lot of money. £10 for PRS returns, not a lot of money. Like, individually, absolutely not a lot of money. But uh, but 50 quid, and you play 10 gigs in a month, that's 500 quid. You do that over 500 quid over a year, and you don't play for two of those months, for example. That's 5 grand. That's not a small amount of money. And that's just support fees. That's not on top of anything else. So it's about being cumulative with these things. And so, is it so always try and look at the wider context, is what I'm trying to say. It's not just about the fee. So this is often agreed with agents, headline bands, so hard for local promoters to affect. So essentially, that is usually the fee on for smaller venues. Like, and that is literally, that's what the promoter will be given, and that's how much they'll have. So a headline fee should be a fixed fee, so like a what's called a guarantee plus ticket split. So there'll be a guaranteed payment of X amount of money plus a ticket split. So, like, percentage going to you, percentage going to promoter. So ticket split, or uh, so plus or versus 80% after cost. So essentially, so it's about around about in so 80%. Some promoters might haggle you down, and depends on who you're working with, but around 80% is sort of typical. The higher up you get, it tends to be about 80%. So what are the agreed costs? Because basically it's 8% after costs. So what are those costs? So is that cover security? Is that cover crew? Does it include a rider, or are they like exempt from costs? So they're not going to like, well, we got you your rider, but we're going to put that rider costs 80 quid, so we're going to put that on your costs. So you have to make sure you agree what those costs are. Really important, because suddenly, those costs can mount up. You're like, well, we've made loads of money. Oh, oh, okay. Oh, we should have maybe got that, that bath of champagne wasn't the greatest idea. Um, uh, Getting that person to remove all the M&Ms apart from the green ones, to use the old favorite. But yeah, so be careful what costs are. Make sure you know you're clear. Make sure you know what you're paying for. What is this covering? And it's the same if you're paying, uh, if you're paying a hiring fee, if you're booking your own gig, what does that cover? Does that cover insurance? Does that cover security? Does that cover, does that cover who has to, you know, it probably won't cover door staff, so you'll probably need to get some door staff. The engineer, that's great. Are they providing all the equipment, all that kind of stuff? So you make sure you know what everything's covering. Make sure you know what you're getting for your money always. Yeah, like small gig, big gig, just know what you're getting. And you don't have to ask rudely. It's just like, can you let me know what this entails? What is this covering? Uh, So ticket deals. So you can get a cost per ticket sold. So be clear about what expectations are. Um, so if you're like a promoter gives you a bunch of tickets and likes to sell those for you, how much are you getting for each of those tickets? Like what are they giving you per ticket? Are they giving you, half? They're giving you like one quarter? What is the incentive for you? Like what do you get back from selling those tickets for the promoters? Because sometimes promoters will, if they'll sometimes have a go, like they've all got costs to cover, and they might go, oh, so make sure you know what you're getting again, make sure that's agreed, make sure that's in an email chain, that's clear, so you can go back and go, you agreed this. And people, if they've agreed to it, they'll probably stick to it. So it's not a great, so like a cost per ticket, not great, but often a great way to start building relationships between promoters and you and original artists. So like if you start, it's sort of something you do. Um, so Franz put surely costs per dis, tickets disincentive the promoter the the promoter to promote the show and sell tickets. Yeah, absolutely. Like so. Franz made the point that it's getting you to sell tickets is a disincentive for them to promote the gig. Yeah, absolutely. There's an argument that essentially you're doing the job for them. There's also an argument that you want to show that you can bring an audience and you can make the money. Like if you haven't got a name, like you haven't got a recognizable name yet, but you can bring an audience of 30 people down to a small gig, that's gonna probably get some notice, and you're probably gonna start getting better gigs where you're not having to sell per ticket. But also, a lot of gigs you will, if you're a headliner, you are going to be doing some of the selling yourself. You just are, like that. Yes, a promoter should be promoting gigs, but a lot of it is on the band sometimes as well, and that isn't always great. And sometimes promoting isn't, so it's a tricky one. Uh, uh, you'd hope it would be a relationship. Yeah, absolutely. You do hope it would be a relationship, but when you're starting out, you've got to do these. You've got to jump through hoops. I'm not saying it's right. I think you're making really good points here, by the way, Fran.
Sorry, I played some of those when I was just out of uni, like fresh out of uni, those kinds of gigs, and they were just always a letdown and always disappointing because you almost felt you were working against the promoter, like
Yeah,
they almost didn't want you to succeed. So yeah,
right.
I hated those kind of gigs.
No, that's great, and that's really worth knowing. I have promoted gigs like where we've done that, like we did a whole all day, and it was a lot of bands we knew, so a lot of them were friends, and we wanted it to be a really great event, and we gave everyone a bunch of tickets and went, yeah, you'll have X amount per ticket. But that was more of a collective thing because it was me and another guy promoting it, and it was a really good giggle, and we had a brilliant day, and everyone had a really good time, and everyone got a bit of money, and yeah, that was dead nice. It was really nice. We did it at Eiger. It was a long time ago now, but
I think
so
something like a split or something like if you sell this many, you get an added like incentive on top of your guaranteed fee or something like that feels a lot more like we're in it together. We're both gonna like promoter and artists. We're both gonna sell this show, and we both we all want to get something out of it. That just feels a lot more collaborative and a lot fairer.
yeah, I agree. And like if they're expecting you to do majority of the work, then it's kind of like why I'm promoting this and why am I paying for promoter? Like, and there's an argument it's paying for promoter because they're taking the upfront financial hit. They're booking the room and they're the engineers and all that kind of the bar staff and all that. But but there's an argument that I could just be doing this. I could be taking the financial risk myself and making more of the money. So you make a really strong point. But it is definitely one of the methods used in promoting. Like it just is. So I think it's definitely worth saying. But thank you. Yeah, I think you make a really good point, Fran. And like this is great. And anyone else got any contributions to make, please do. So I really appreciate it. Um, there's the deadly pay to play gigs that you don't see a lot of these anymore. Um, so basically, an artist pays for the tickets in advance, and then has to sell them. Uh, uh, Obviously, essentially, it's putting the financial risk on the artist. You don't see a lot of them anymore, and if you do, just just don't do it. Like, because essentially, what you're doing is you buy a ticket in bulk. And there's been a few like there were certain competitions around a few years ago that did this where you would have to you would buy 250 quid's worth of ticket up front and then you would sell the tickets and on their behalf and bring an audience in and like it and and it's just it basically it's not a great practice and you don't see a lot of it anymore, thank goodness, because it's not basically people got wise to it, um, because it's not necessarily always even a scam, but it's a way of like a promoter not taking any financial burden. And what it says is that they have no trust in their own ability to promote a gig. Essentially, that we talk about in it together. That's just a kind of going, well, you take all the risk by buying these tickets off me, and then you sell them on, and no one, yeah, and you can, and they might sell them to you at cost, and you can put a percentage on, but you're still taking financial risk by buying 200, 300 tickets. But again, it's not something you really see. So, but if you do see it, run away. So advancing a show. Oh, I've not animated this one. That's really difficult for me. So advancing a show. So having a tech spec. So really important. Any rider requirements? Now, obviously, if you're a small band, that you might not have much choice. It might. And so going, yeah, I want a bath of champagne. They're going to go, no, you can't have a bath of champagne. But it might be some bottles of water on stage or whatever that might be. Something that's going to make um kind of life a little bit easier. And actually, I know riders has become a bit of a thing that everyone laughs at and goes, that person wanted, all the white lilies and everything painted white. And it's like, actually, they are a really important requirement because what he's saying is you're trying to make the artist comfortable. And what are these things that it's like, I need a quiet space. I need, like, it'd be great if some fruit backstage. Um, uh, I have some friends who do have like a joke one and they put on like they want a bag of socks uh in their rider just as a get, and sometimes they get it. It's really funny. Just for fun. Um but they're fools. So organizing a shared backline. This can be very last minute, so be prepared. Um it's one of those things. So backline, your amps and your drum kit and all that kind of stuff. Like uh sometimes I remember playing gigs and like a band wouldn't be prepared to share their backline, and it always felt a bit dickish to me. Like it's like you're not better than everyone else. Why are you behaving like you're better than everyone else? Like, and they'd be all like, no, we don't want you to play through our amp, or we don't want you to play through on our drum kit. And it's like, like, yeah, drummer would have to bring their own cymbals and snare. That's fair enough. But like, if someone's traveled a while, or they, you're asking to support you, and like you're not paying them a lot, providing them a backline, I don't think it's too much of an ask. So yeah, be prepared to do that, and be prepared to share your equipment. It's always really nice when that happens. Like, and I remember like my friend's amp going like during a gig, and like one of the support acts like running on stage, sticking their amp up, sticking their amp on, and like they wired it in, and got going again. It was just lovely. It just was a really nice thing. He then proceeded to fall over in the gig. We then made a gif of it, and that was brilliant. It was a really good night. Um, um, uh, so food, accommodation, travel expenses, and travel expectations. So like when we be arriving, that kind of stuff. So like making sure that you're already clear on that. So who's paying for that, or what you're getting if you're going out of town, or if someone's coming in town to play your gig, what are you providing, what are you not providing. Uh, Buyout. Are they just paying you a flat fee and it's complete buyout, or are you getting a ticket fee? So sometimes scaling up. Expectations of bigger show or bigger festival. So are you playing that, and are they going to give you that? If you play this gig, uh, then it's the expectation that. Also, it's worth mentioning that also gigs get scaled up as well. On another thing that sometimes shows get moved to bigger venues, all that kind of stuff, and contract terms. So advantage, so making sure that you know what terms are in that. So what is expected of you? Is there stuff like can you not play for 2 months, like in a city beforehand, and is that any good for you? Like if you're a support act and you've been told you can't play for 2 months in your own city, is that worth it? Like if you've got momentum, that kind of thing. So making sure you know what you're signing, be really clear of that. So promotion. So interesting. We're coming back to this, Fran. Um, really obvious things now. So make sure it's listed on Songkick, Bands in Town, on your website, Spotify, socials. Making sure you make people aware of it. Like um, there's a thing that I always hear in the music industry a lot, which is everybody's seen it or everybody's heard it, and this is usually said by small bands. And it's like, you're a small band. I guarantee not everybody has seen it and not everybody's heard of it. So like, don't be afraid to kind of, talk about, remind people that you've got a gig. I mean, nowadays, because of the multiple ways you can post on something like Instagram, you don't just have to put story after story, sorry, post after post. You can do a story every day with the same gig. It might be some different artwork. It might just be a different way of reminding. It might be a little reel or something like that. But don't be afraid to kind of keep reminding people, put it in front of them. People are getting bombarded with information. So make sure you're making it really clear to your audience, whoever your audience are, that something is happening. Don't be ashamed of that. Like, don't be, and like be unapologetic about it. Like the bands I know are doing well are unapologetic about saying, we're doing this thing, I'm doing this thing, here's me doing this thing. Um, and I think they're actually really good at. I think Dilettante. I don't know if you know Dilettante. It's brilliant. Frank Pigeon. Apps. I think Frankie's socials are amazing. I think she's so good at promoting herself and promoting her work and giving you an insight into what she does. But if you look, she's constantly reminding you what she's doing. I know where Frankie's all the time. Like I know, like she's just got back from Toronto. I know that because I see it all the time on her. And like, but she doesn't do it in a way that's like bagging. She just has found a way to really cleverly remind people of what she's doing, what music she's making, where she's touring, who she's playing with, where she's playing. And she does it in a really engaging, brilliant way. But she's also unapologetic about making people aware of what she's doing and not embarrassed that whole like trying to act cool, like it's like it's like fine, like this sort of thing, this whole idea, like you're not trying to sell people anything. I get that, but you're at the same time you are trying to sell people things. Like like it's a difficult balance. Doesn't mean you can't be creative about it, but do make sure people are aware of how they can get to your gigs. So if you do have Facebook, which I know a lot of people don't anymore, have an event active. Um, can you supply posters? Make cool bespoke artwork? Can you make can you make a poster for a gig? Can you make something that looks great, that like really sells it? That promoters want to put up, venues want to put up. Something that's gonna like really sell who you are. Like don't be afraid to make like this kind of stuff. I always think like it's not ancillary, it's actually key to who you are. This is how people are going to know you. they're going to see this stuff, and this is how they're going to recognize you. You know, and I know we're not talking about branding and or marketing this week, but this is key part of it, and great branding will help you like go somewhere because people know what it looks like. I mean, back to Whiskas, who runs Music Leads, like Forward Russia, man, they had those two exclamation marks. Shit me, that did well. Like, their merch sales were grand, I think. Like, I'm sure they weren't that good at. But but you knew who, when you saw those two exclamation marks, the I and the exclamation mark together, you knew who it was. Like, and if you can be that eye catching and that kind of like clear, it means that selling gigs makes it easier, right? Um, uh, can you flyer similar shows? So if there's a like if you're, I don't know, if you're a hip hop artist, can you gig other hip hop gigs? If you're you're soul artist, or you're singer songwriter, or you're an indie band, can you go to those gigs and flyer those gigs outside? Like, get people interested. Like flying's difficult. It's like one in 100. So every flyer you hand out, only 100 flyers you hang out, and one of them works. But if you're handing out enough and you're talking to enough people, or you just generate enough, or you give them a QR code, and like whatever it can, again, path of least resistance. Make sure you're doing stuff. So make it easy for people to buy tickets. Make playlists, like of some of the artists performing, really, and again, it seems really simple, but it's like, make people feel like they're part of something, that it's not just you and you're doing this thing. It's like, here's all loads of music, a part of us, share that out with the other sport acts, or the other acts that are on the bill, make it a thing. um So mailing lists and social media, and so I've obviously mentioned social media. Mailing lists are still really effective. Like, people sign up to mailing lists because they want to hear something. Like, they genuinely do. Like, you don't sign up to a mailing list if you don't want to hear something. When someone signs up to a mailing list, they're inviting you to give information to you about them, like, and they're still really effective. Now, whether or not that'll transfer to sales is another matter, but it's awareness. And awareness is like half the battle, right? People just knowing what you're doing. So yeah, really worth getting a mailing list, really worth, sorting out, like some MailChimp, for example, who do like a free service. It's like, they're really key. And it means that you can really target, if you have a small audience, and that small audience might be like 50, 60 people on a mailing list, but you get like 10% of those people coming to the gig. That's really great. That's really important. Like, um are you letting people know about a gig? What are you asking them what are you asking them to do to remember about the gig? So what is it that what is so like is there a way you can make it memorable that this is happening? Like, is there a thing? Is there a hook? Is there a catch on? Um, so yeah, think about how you're marketing gigs, because posters, don't really do it anymore. Just doing an event on Facebook doesn't do it anymore. Like, it's like like I say, people are bombarded now. So, and I'm going to come back to kind of some of my thoughts on this a little bit in a little bit. So, Um, so is it worth selling tickets in advance? I would pretty much always argue yes. It's harder nowadays, like selling tickets in advance, from what I've gleaned by a lot of my friends who are selling tickets to lots of different artistic events. People are much Since the pandemic, people are much less likely to buy tickets in advance, but people will still. You're getting more and more walk-ups now. People are a lot more kind of like, will do things a little more off the cuff than they used to. But I would like argue for most gigs, yeah, just so you can at least get an idea of who's coming. So uh Bandcamp, so make using that, using Bandcamp to kind of promote, and you could, by doing that, obviously with Bandcamp you can bundle up as well, so you could sell like a t-shirt and a ticket, or a CD and a ticket, or whatever that might be. You can bundle merch up, so you can make it a little bit more than just like buy a ticket. It's like, or they're buying an exclusive t-shirt they'll get on the night. like something they're going to receive, like a gift they're going to receive on the night. So they're not just going to go to a gig, they're going to go to a gig and they're going to get a thing, which is cool. Like that's really exciting. And you know, it might be a mystery box. I don't know if you're that like adventurous, you might want to be like, it's a mystery box, it won't be full of shit, you know, like, but again, if your audience trusts you and they know you, they'll know you're not just going to be like give them some tat, right? So record shops, you know, like getting like Crash and Jumbo still sell tickets. It might be worth doing that because you know they might like you, and you might take some music in and say, "Listen, here's some music. I've got a gig on. Have a listen. If you like it, if you can tell people it's happening, that'd be amazing. Get to know the staff behind the counter. You know, they're all passionate about music. Uh, and sorry, I mentioned this already with it with your mailing list. You know, sell people out bundling merch. Is it worth paying for digital ads or post boosts? You know, have you got the audience reach? Is that worth spending the money on? And again, that is a decision uh, that that's kind of on you. And again, this is about you knowing where you are within your career. So there's always been that kind of been very self aware when you're playing gig. If you are boosting posts, make sure you're being specific, like about the area, the geography that you're aiming on at. Don't just kind of like, just kind of go everybody everywhere. It's like if you're playing in Leeds, then Leeds and surrounding areas, that's where you want to be marketing. Anywhere else is kind not really much point unless you know you've got an international audience, and if you have, then you probably know this stuff already, or you hopefully got someone who's doing this for you. Um, a lackey, we'll call them. All right. Uh, stand out, and this is sort of the thing that I was kind of alluding to earlier, is that I think more and more, and this is this is probably where I get a little bit like this is you're getting in my own little head world right now, so I apologize. This is stuff that I'm kind of sort of been simmering in my brain for a while. Um, I've realized that more and more people are about experience now. There's in fact a marketing term called experience seekers. I know this because I had to do some marketing stuff for a piece of funding I had to go for, and so I had to show that we understood markets. And there's experiences, but more and more people are wanting experiences. So like people are, the kind of whole, and that comes from both the Instagram thing. So people like love taking photos of the world they're existing in and curating their lives. But it also comes from the fact that people just want to, when they go to something, they don't just want to feel the same things anymore. I think since the pandemic, people are wanting to go somewhere and feel more than they may have felt beforehand. Like they're maybe a little more demanding than they were, a little like, and um so my thing is like, how do you make a gig more than just a gig? Like, like I think I think we've kind of got so used to this sort of like, I play in a venue, I go on stage, there's an audience, I play half an hour, or if I'm headlining an hour, bish bash bosh, bit of merch, everyone goes home. Thanks very much. Good night. Great. But if there's a lot of bands doing that, or a lot of artists doing that, and they're all really good at it, how do you stand out? Like, what is it that you can do to make your night something special? So, how do you make so yeah? So these are the things to think about. So, like, it's something like genuinely like I've been thinking about a lot. Like, it's something I'm talking to artists a lot about as well. And when I'm kind of speaking to them, like, it's like um you don't have to do everything that everyone else does. Like, if there was set rules, I mean, I keep saying this, is set rules, then everyone would follow those rules and everyone would be massive. But the truth is that people stand out for lots of reasons. Some people it's luck, some people it's, well, a lot rarely is it just luck. It's partly luck, but it's, they're part of a scene that's starting to blow up. They're playing the right venues in front of the right promoters, and they were seen at the right time. They caught a zeitgeist, whatever that might be, but they stood out, right? Or they were just that fucking good. Like they played loads of gigs, they were that good, and they stood out. But if you're cultivating an audience, I think the problem is when we play gigs, we're to playing gigs now for the gigs we really want to be playing in the future. And I think that's really problematic. I find that really problematic. We're constantly told live in the now, right? That's the big advice we get as human beings, right? That we shouldn't always be projecting forward. We should try and be in the present right now. And I think that's the same with bands, right? Like and artists and creatives and performing is that you shouldn't be playing a crap gig now so you can play a good gig later. How do you make the gig that you're going to play right now good? Like, how do you make it special? Not just for you, but for your audience. How do you make that stand out? Like, um, so location, like, do you have to play a traditional venue? Like, do you have, I was saying about us playing a working men's club, like, as much as, yeah, it's a venue, they didn't have indie gigs going on at that point. They had like turns, and we brought up an indie band who were releasing their new single and played, and we packed the place out. But like, and that felt really kind of like true to them and because they're working class lads from Morley, and we did this whole like, uh, Morley's prodigal son's return, and it's kind of all done very tongue in cheek, but and we made it a really special night for those guys because we turned this venue that was kind of a working man's club into like a fucking ace venue. Like it looked ace. We had like the banner up, and we had the amazing light show, and massive PA, and it was like suddenly it felt like Wembley Stadium in there. Like it was brilliant, and like um wonderful artist I work with called Chess Mini. She's about 20 single, and I've been talking to her about her. She's doing a launch gig 18th of November. And she's like, I've been talking to her about kind of like what you're gonna do. Like, and we started talking about ideas, and she was like, and she's got this idea about what she's gonna do. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to give it away, but I think it's gonna be much more experiential. Like, it's like get creative. So location. So could it be somewhere that isn't just a music venue? Could you do it in? Could you record it in studio? Could you do a small invited guest to studios? Could you do it in like a church, or could you do it in like I don't know, like uh, uh, on a beach, or I don't know, whatever it might be, somewhere that's like gonna make people really go, "Wow, that's amazing! That's like I didn't think we could go there." Stage settings, like uh, so props, lights, projections. Like, is there something you can do to make like the environment that you're performing in more than just like backstage gear? And I get it, if it's a support gig, that's different. But if it's your gig, like, how do you make it so it feels like it's special, right? Um, so audience placement, like, do you need to be on a stage? Do you need to be on the stage and they're over there? Can you do it in the round? Can you do it cabaret style? Can everyone be sat down? Can you everyone like 360 mosh pit? Like, I don't know. I'm just, like, I'm literally just spitballing. And it's like, can you do something that isn't just like stage audience? Now that might be great, and that might be just what you need. You might, and I'm not saying that this is, but is there a way to kind of to just change it up? To make it feel different. I really recommend going to see Hope and Social, who have been around for years and years and years. And they perform. They've kind of got such a dedicated audience. They perform monthly every night now in Leeds at the Attic, like and they like play to like 75, 80 people, and like they know exactly what they're doing. They play in the round. They don't, it's all very intimate. They wander on stage. They have a chat with everyone, and it's like because they know that their audience feel part of a community. They're called Hope and Social. It's like literally their whole thing is like it being a community of people, and that's what they create with this night. Is that it's sort of so it's kind of breaking that kind of like we're here, you're here. Now they're playing the Brudenell as well, and they'll do much more of that. But and the fact they can play the Brudenell and also do a gig, like it's really like they've built they are the key. They're a key band for me about who understand who their audience is. Like um, can you decorate the venue? Can you make it look like something? Can have you got creative friends? Can you get creative? Can you make it feel like it's something more than just like a room, in a bar or a pub? audience participation, like is that something you can, like can you make, and it isn't like that might be joining in, that might be, request, that might be them writing something on, on a piece of paper or sending in something prior to the gig and you reacting to it. Is there a way to involve the audience, like to make them feel part of something? Memorable moments, is there something you can do to make it stand out? Is there a moment you can, and I understand that that's really hard to engineer, but not always. Like if you know your music, if you know how to put a set together, then can you make something that's like, oh, like that, like what you're doing, right? Like I've seen artists, they know when they're making a moment, they know what they're doing, and like that's just vibing from the audience. But can you do something great that's really like, I know this is going to hit? Collabs, like can you, and what I mean by that is any kind of, can it be a food collab, can it be, can it be like, yeah, buy a ticket, get a sandwich, um can it be collab with an artist? Can it be collab like as like an actual a visualize, like someone doing a live drawing while you're, like projected from an iPad while you're performing on stage? Could it be, like someone coming up and performing with you? Or do you have a friend who's quite well known and they can come on and do some, I don't know, whatever it is, like can you pull some favors in? Like, but making it like something more. So, and what you'll find is by making it special for the audience, you'll make it special for you. It won't just be a gig. It won't just be like, yeah, I played it, was all right. It's like, I made it special. It's like, you know, the reason why wedding days are so special for people. Obviously, you're doing something special. I didn't say this to someone who's married, by the way, but you also, because you make it special, like you make an effort to make it special. So make that effort. Like, what can you do? Um, so all these ideas will be are much easier when you know what your audience likes. If you the more you know your audience, the more you can react to your audience, the more you can give them stuff that you want and like. Cool. So that's my little like, like I've been sat on that for a while and I've wanted to say. So make the most of the shows. If you're making new fans, how can you keep a connection with them? So how do you keep a connection with fans? Like, so mailing list. So have a mailing list. Like nowadays, that's even easier because they don't even have to write it down anymore. You can have QR codes that can scan and sign up to there and then. Follow on DSPs and socials. So I've started a vinyl only label. Like we're literally releasing anything only on vinyl. We're doing 100 copies per release, and they'll never be released again, which is madness. But we're just doing it for shits and giggles. Me and my best friend. Um, I have a captive audience in the fact that I teach 1 day a week at least Beckett. Like that's so, and like so, and I made every class that I was in follow my Instagram. Like, but it's like, all right, they're all music students, like, so I made them all do it and they were all happy to do it. Do that with your audience, man. Get them to fucking get the phones out. Like, in fact, I got a band to do that. I managed. I made everyone get the made told them to everyone told the lead singer to tell the audience, who was like 400 people in the audience, go and save the song now on Spotify. And they all did. They all got the phones out and played the song. Like, don't be afraid to kind of like, push that shit. People always do that coy stuff of like, oh, you know where we are. We're on the social media and we're really embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. Like they're at your gig. They want to hear what you're doing. Be fucking bold about it, I mean, just like be barefaced about it. Merch. Yes, 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 merch. Maximize your income. Merch is great. People love it. Um, so think about the table, think about how it looks, think about the display, make sure it looks good so people want to be a part of it. Don't undervalue it. Don't be like, oh, well, no, we want, like the amount of people I hear going, no, well, there's no point in selling CDs. No one wants CDs. Are you fucking kidding me? CDs sell like shit at fucking gigs. Like, sorry, I'm swearing loads now, because I'm getting really passionate. But like, people love CDs at gigs because like the £5, like five, like you can press them for like £1, £5, and people will want them signed. And they'll never play them, I guarantee it, but it's a memento. People want a token, they want a little thing they can take away. Also, remind your audience, £5 is still cheaper than a pint. You know what I mean? Like, so are you like I don't undervalue yourself. It now, so if people are prepared to pay like £6 for slop in a glass or art that someone's made, like just remind people that go, my art should be more worth more than a pint of beer. Like, uh, yeah, don't buy a pint, buy some merch. Like, you know, so be clear with pricing. You know, make sure that people do can do that. Have a card reader, QR, all that kind of stuff. So like people are less and less nowadays. I mean, I am guilty of it. Like less people buy have got cash nowadays. So make sure you've got vending because it really does make a difference. Um, the big one, be at the merch table after your gig. Like I cannot tell you, don't go backstage and like whoop it up and like do the whole like backslapping we're the greatest in the world. Like yes, I know you want to, what but and this is pure economics here. Go directly to the merch table, like do a big cheer, go off stage, walk directly to the merch table because everyone will if you're good. Like if obviously if you shit, stay backstage and like lick your wounds. Like if you're good, and you'll probably know you've been good, you'll know you like, but where you can, when you finish a gig, and this is including support gig as well, remind people that you've got merch. Always bring merch to a support gig. That's really important. Um, uh, go to like go straight to the merch table because people will flock to the merch table and they will want to buy something. They want to show how much they appreciated you and how great you think you are, and they'll buy something and they'll want it signed. So have a pen there as well. And if they don't want it signed, fine. But most of the time people do want it signed. Like and I've been to loads of gigs where that's happened, and not just like small gigs, like with small artists. I mean, like you know. I was at the Nightmares on Wax gig. They played two nights at the what's it called thing, big venue outside town. And it was totally gone. Um, and like 2,500 people at the gig. Like mass. Really big gig, really full. And George, who is Nightmares on Wax, when he finished, he went straight back to the merch table, and there was a queue a mile long, and he was just signing like vinyl and selling this vinyl, selling the vinyl and getting it and signing it, selling the vinyl, getting signed. He was 30 quid a copy for that vinyl, and I have no idea how much he, like, I bought a cap, like all that kind of, and that was like 25, 30 quid. Like much people are prepared to pay much more money than they probably would do. And that's not saying you're ripping people off, but like it costs money to be a creative. We all know this, right? And people are willing to pay because they want to show their appreciation for you. So don't be coy about taking the money. They wouldn't buy it if they couldn't afford it. Like, and this is how you keep funding your art. And it's like, and because and they want to buy it, like sell badges, sell stickers, sell t-shirts, sell mugs, key rings, whatever it is your audience are into. Like, buy tea's a big thing. Like bands are having tea made at the moment. That seems to be quite the thing. Or coffee. Um, so if you've got that kind of cash, then go for it. But like, but do what's affordable as well. Like don't be like, you know, buying a shitload up front and putting yourself in hot water because you can't afford it. So making the most of the shows. Oh, I didn't put and animate this one either. So if you make, yes. So, be on time. If you're late, it can cause problems with sound checks. Really, really important. Being on time, like it's nothing worse when bands turn up late. It's a fucking nightmare. It knocks everyone else off time, pisses people off. It shows a lack of respect for everyone else who has turned up on time. It's just not cool. Like, and it can actually really affect a gig, and it will piss the engineer off royally. And you don't want to piss the engineer off because they're the person who's going to make you sound good. Um, be prepared to be flexible so things change. Like line times might change things, for whatever reason, but be flexible. Don't be a dick about it. And this is again really important that you haven't got a band member who's like has to be off by 7 because like make sure that the rest of your whoever else you're playing with has that ability to be flexible too. uh Allow other bands to use your gear where possible, as I've already mentioned. Be nice. I cannot stress, like, it is the ticket. Like, I think mainly my career has been built on being generally quite nice. Like, I don't think I'm that talented really, but like, I just think I'm an all right guy. Like, I jest, I believe in what I do, and I'm really, proud. But I do think I'm easy. I've made myself fairly easy to work with, which means that people are happy to employ me, and I get re-employed because I'm just easy. Like I'm a nice guy to be about, and hopefully that rubs off. Apart from when I'm not being a nice guy, and then I'm could be a real asshole. Um, so be nice to the sound person. They are skilled people. Like sound person is like this, really skilled individual. They have feelings. They work a lot of hours. They work a lot of social hours. Be kind to them. And I can see the difference when a band's not, like so Trev, who works the Brood, like Trev's an absolute diamond of human being. Um, but sometimes people are dick to him because they think he's just like this robot, and I can see it, how that affects him and affects his work because he's a human being. Like, so being nice is just takes so little things. And sometimes you will meet an engineer who isn't nice, who is a dickhead, because there are some. Kill them with kindness, man. Don't be a dick back. Just be really nice to them because they don't know what to do with it. Um, uh, be nice to the other bands. Like you're not in a competition. And like again, I've been at gigs when the support acts have been assholes, and you're like blacklisted. Like you're like, we're done. I'm not interested in you. Like you're stop acting, trying to act like Liam Gallagher. You aren't. So like, you haven't earned that right. So fuck off and get out of my face. Be nice to the staff, like, to the bar staff, to the, everyone who's about. It takes them just, like they're working really hard. They're trying to do a job for you. They really appreciate it. Like making people's lives nice. To the promoters, because obviously they're doing the work. The gig reps being there. They're taking the money. They've been on the door. They're doing, making sure everyone's getting paid. Be nice to them, man. They're working hard. And to the audience, obviously, like don't be that again. Don't act like Liam Gallagher. If you haven't earned it. That people are turning out for you. You know they're they're showing you appreciation. Don't be contemptuous of that. Be be generous because they've had the generosity to turn up and show support for you. Or even if they haven't come for you, they stayed in the room to watch you when they could have gone out to the bar and buy a drink. you know Again, don't be pissed off if you've got 20 or even 10 people in front of you at a sport gig, and it's a 60 cap venue or 100 cap venue, or 500 cap venue. Play to the people in front of you because they've taken the time to be there. One of my favorite memories ever. I was engineering a gig at for Live at Leeds. It was Milo's at Live at Leeds. So Milo's isn't there anymore. It's where Donna Summer is now. And we were upstairs, and the last band went on. Treason Kings they were called, and they they went on. It must have been like, I think it was midnight, maybe even later, and we'd run slightly over, and they went on stage, and there was literally nobody in the room. I think there was one person and me, and I was engineering the gig. And they came on and they played their hearts out. Like they honestly, they played like to that one person, like they mattered most in the world. And what was great is that people started coming upstairs, and they could see these people having a great time. By the end, there was maybe 20, 30 people in the room, all just going mental. And it was one of my favorite memories at a gig because that band made a vibe because they decided they weren't going to get in a huff about only having one person in front of them. They decided that one person was worth playing for. And honestly, it was one of the best like sets I ever saw because and I was like, that is class. That is how to do it. Really brilliant. So yeah. So remember, people want to work with nice people, and bad news travels fast. Like if you're a dick, people talk and go, they're a dick. And people don't want to work with dicks. They just don't. They want to work with nice people, especially nowadays. It isn't the 80s anymore, man. This is much more collaborative affair. This is much more DIY. City's small and people talk, um and the beautiful thing is actually when you are nice and you are part of something, when you go to nights and you go places and you start recognizing people and people start being nice to you and you feel like you're part of something. When you feel like you're part of something, that is amazing. So sports slots, so often dependent on the artist agent and management. Promoters get to decide very late. So a local promoter will get to decide very late on who they get to play. So sometimes that opportunity will arrive very late. So do your research on artist teams and who else is supporting them across the tours. So if you know that an artist is coming to town and you like them, find out who else is supporting them. Find out if you're going to fit the bill, and then try and sell yourself to the promoter. On the night, make a good impression, say hello and be respectful. It is their night, not yours. So yeah, it's not your show. Respect the fact they're on tour. Sometimes bands are really tired. Like I've played show. I haven't played shows because I don't play, but I've had bands I've worked with, sporting acts who and they were like in, I don't know, Oxford the night before, and now they're playing Leeds, and they're exhausted, and they're and they try and be nice, but usually they need a bit of downtime. So if they are being slightly like, hey, I'm just gonna go to that corner and weep a little bit, then don't understand it's not you. Um, Festivals, and I know everyone wants to kind of talk about festivals very quickly. They're very competitive to get booked on, really competitive. Big festivals, so like Leeds and Reading and Glastonbury, they will mainly be booked through booking agents. So if you don't have a booking agent, it is very difficult to get onto those lineups. Yeah, so they're incredibly difficult to do. So and what you really, that's the kind of thing that the gateway is a booking agent, but they're not something to worry about straight away. Everyone's like, well, I should get a booking agent then. It's like, well, you might not get one straight away. So like that maybe is an aim and a core aim, but ultimately, like, don't worry about it, and like, yes, everyone wants to play in festivals now. Everybody I know, every band I know wants to play festivals. But it is difficult. Some do open call outs, and some have competitions, and some have small stages that you can go through. Some obviously have the introducing stage, which means making sure that you're in touch with your local introducing. So obviously here, introducing West Yorkshire, with Emily, and so making sure that you know who those guys are, making sure that you're releasing music and be part of the scene. Look at local festivals and who they are booking, who's booking them, what other events do they promote, can you get to know them, do you need a booking agent? So like there are, so for example, Live at Leeds, that's booked. So Live at Leeds is kind of booked by Future Sound because it's their gig. So if you're working with Future Sound and you've got to know Future Sound, you hopefully can talk to them about getting on the lineup. Now it might be right at the bottom, it might be your opening, whatever it might be. But hopefully what you're working towards is getting to know them, and they'll book you despite the fact you don't have a booking agent. So there are certain festivals, like kind of localized festivals, that definitely you can get on, but you need to know what kind of bands they're booking and whether or not you have a relationship with that promoter. Um, do you need to keep clear of bookings nearby? So essentially, do you need to, if you're playing a festival, do you make sure that you're not playing, like a gig like 2 weeks beforehand, because the promoter's probably not going to like that very much. You are still part of the draw, so therefore they're going to want an option of exclusivity around how much you're playing in that area, um, around a certain time. So think 9 to 12 months ahead. Uh, will you be in a position to be benefiting from a festival? So are you in a position? Are you actually able to do it? Will you benefit from it? Is it going to be worth right now? Like, I know you want to play a festival, but is it worth putting all that effort in right now if you don't think you're actually at the point where you're going to benefit from it? Like, is it just you're going to play to actually five people in mud, and you trekked, 150 miles, and you're getting 20 quid, and is it actually worth it just to say you played a festival? Like, really, really, like, this is where you have to be really honest with yourself and go, actually, I don't know if it is yet, because actually I could be playing that same festival in a year's time, and it'd mean a lot more and be a much better experience, because that is ultimately it as well. It's like, it's about you, right? It's about, why are you doing this? Surely it should be the joy of playing live, right? And loving playing live, not because it's what you have to do, or, like, oh, it's just what you do. It's like, it should be, literally what you do. Like, my mate Rich, he like playing live is in his DNA. Like, he like lives for that. for that. You know, like it is part of his makeup. Like he has to play live. It's like just in him. You know, like uh, in the same way that it's absolutely not in my DNA, and I hate playing live. And when I have done it, I've wanted to like cry. I do a bit of DJing, but like performing like musical instruments on stage, no, thank you. So you know, why are you doing it? And I think that always back to that get strategic bit at the beginning. Why are you doing it? So booking agents, they're key to festivals, support tours, and growing nationally. Um, Agents work with specific artists, promoters, festivals. Uh, so research what aligns with your sound values and fan base. So if you are thinking about a booking agent, like and you are at the point when you're thinking about it, who's the right booking agent? Who are they booking for? Are they booking similar bands? You know, are they booking smaller acts? Who's on their books? You know, why will you be? You know, why will you be a benefit to them, and why will they be a benefit to you? Make contact and or build a relationship through artist managers or existing rosters. So if you know someone who's got a booking agent and you've got a really good friendship with a band, I see they'll introduce you. You never know, they might even just find you. Like, you know, I was managing a band and we had booking agents reach out to us, and that was really lovely. And they actually got us some gigs, even though they ended up not representing the band. They still booked some gigs, and that was really good fun. So building those relationships, getting supporters in the industry is really important. So even if you don't end up signing them, there might end up still been there might be 1,000 reasons why they didn't. You know, there might just be political reasons. There might be, you know, they might have a full roster, whatever it might be. In my experience, booking agents like to have managers, artists have management. So it's called we call it B2B, business to business. So essentially, booking agents don't want to speak to a band, they want to speak to management. They want to go, is the band available to play at this point? Yes, they are. Or let me check with the band. Yes, they are. Come back. They don't want to be talking to bands because bands are creative individual artists are creative individuals. They're not always the most organized human beings, and it is a little bit like I we're a grown up business. We want to speak to another grown up, please. Like, and that's why managers often, you know, that's why they're there, and you know, also that allows the artist to be being an artist rather than, you know, or the organization. If you play London and Brighton, make sure you invite booking agents to the shows. So booking agents will usually take 10 to 20% of fees before costs. So they will take, you know, direct percentage off. But hopefully what they're doing is getting you a better quality of gig or higher pay, you know, higher rate of pay. And so it'll be worth it. And then sort of lastly, the art of saying no. So more gigs in one place is often beneficial. So, you know, playing, you know, every 2 weeks in Leeds is probably not going to work out in the long run. You know, you're probably going to hit saturation very, very quickly. And, you know, that audience who came down the first 2 times might not come down the third time. You know, like you know, how often is it worth playing? And you know, maybe it is that you just want to play all the time, and that's okay, but you know that you're going to be playing to smaller audiences. You know, maybe you are going to play every week, and actually it's going to be part of a night that you host, and that's okay. But understand the context that you're doing it in. Consider back to it, what is the aim of the shows? So why are you doing it? Is it for audience growth? Is it for building relationships? Is it for making money? Does it comprise? Does it compromise the aims of other shows? So if you're doing a headliner and you're doing another gig, is it worth doing it? And how does it fit with your long-term plans? So you're always going back to those kind of key points. Some would call them non-negotiables, but ultimately they're things that are important to you as creative. Like, and that's ultimately it. It's going back to what you want from this. And actually, it's like, I just want to play some gigs, man. Then fine, go play some gigs. There's millions of open mic nights. Go and play them, enjoy them. If that's what you want, that's great. But if it's more strategic and it's more long term based, then definitely start thinking of it in a wider and longer term plan. But also be realistic with the aims that you're going for especially in the short term. So does all these things fit with your plans? So just to let you know that Launchpad are working with Future Sound, and you can apply to you can submit yourself as an artist to Future Sound, they can refer you. They might refer you back to Launchpad, or it might. I think it also works the other way around. That also, if you work with Launchpad, they'll refer you to Future Sound. But there's a link there. Feel free to take a screenshot or anything like that of it. But this is a way for you to kind of to submit to Future Sound to play. Hopefully everyone's got that down. All right, and you can just go to the Future Sound group website as well. So